I'm thinking that everybody can hear me, and if there's any issues, you can always go to the chat. I'm also monitoring it. So a bit about myself. I'm a third generation quantity surveyor. So my grandfather was the first Asian chartered quantity surveyor in Asia, actually in the world. And he got his RICS. He passed it in 1941, but he didn't get his results until 1945 after the war. And I'm proud to say I'm third generation, but not too sure whether he's still proud of me, because I'm no more doing the traditional QS work, but doing a lot more than what the QS in his time, the cut and shuffle, and using stenciling, to now using a lot of digital. I graduated from University of Reading in 1999, started work straight away, and I decided to do a few things. One, I deepened my knowledge and took a degree in IT in University of Portsmouth. And then I knew as quantity surveyor, we need to know about law very well. So I further studied in King's College London and did a master's in construction law and arbitration. I also, in 1999, I took an elective in sustainable construction, and I saw that that's going to be very important. And I did a master's in Nottingham for sustainable building design. And that is, it's what I'm doing now in my work. It's, I can say, part QS, but bringing the profession that I'm doing to sustainability, resiliency now, which I'll cover a little bit later, and even in digital. So that's a little bit about me. And I will go into the presentation now. So I hope everybody can see my screen. Okay. So I think we are now moving to a new normal in the way we work. I don't know about you guys, but I'm actually now working from home for last 2 months, and I've just been told that the following month we'll be working from home as well, where 1/3 of the office will be going back to the office. So I'll be home again in June, and I must say that it seems that the new normal is really using digital. The time when we were told about the office having to work from home 100% because of the COVID-19, the offices and departments that I was handling could switch to working from home within 48 hours, and because we were all on digital. So it seems that the new normal will be not only on digital, but perhaps using a lot more flexibility in the way we work, and also looking at how we will be, sharing. Okay, sorry, you can see my screen. Thank you so much. Sorry, some of you are having problem. You cannot hear anything, is it? Hinrong? I suggest if you can't hear, you can go in and come back again, yeah? And the rest are okay. Excellent. So I think the new normal is going to be something that it's going to be using digital, and for us in our profession, we must be comfortable in that. I also see that the new normal is that there's going to be a lot more on sustainability. So my bet in 1999 was good, that I was looking into sustainability and seeing how we can deepen the understanding of the profession and understanding of how even me as a quantity surveyor will be able to look at sustainability in the way we work. So this is something on the I call it the United Nations Sustainable Development Goal, right? And it's good. It's whereby UN has come together and said that there's actually 17 main goals and targets that we are going to be having. For example, climate change. They want no poverty and so on and so forth. I decided to look at how we can, as a profession, target these 17 SDGs. And for example, for zero hunger means they will be looking at food resiliency. So as a QS or even as a cost engineer, I must know how to look cost such projects and products. Even looking at like water, how do we look at costing and managing of water projects? So really guided by this 17 SDGs. So in terms of communicating digitally, in Singapore, since the late 2018, we were looking at this thing called IDD, which stands for Integrated Digital Delivery. This means that information from the start of the project to the end of the project, it's all communicated digital, okay? The data is all digital. I have quantity surveyors under in my department, and when I got them in, I told them one thing: I am not going to give you a calculator. I'm not going to give you a scale rule, and I'm not going to give you a big table, and I'm not going to give you a curve meter. But by doing that, they were forced to think of, hey, how am I going to be working digitally? And so they were looking at electronic document management system. They were looking at how they can use softwares to do measurement, and I'll share some softwares with you later. And most important, how can they evolve in using IDD in the common data environment, or they call it CDE. And I tell you, it works, because by sheer trying to force a square peg in a round hole, their thinking has changed. It took time. It took about 6 months, but we have the first batch of quantity surveyors who have that thinking, and you know what? They are measuring directly from the .rvt file, from a Revit file. Tons of productivity can be achieved. So from the design, delivery, and even the operation, we are looking at digital delivery and data management. This is the example of the 4 thrusts: the digital design, DFMA, digital construction, and asset management. So you can see that using building information modeling, or BIM, is going to be quite important. Why I want to stress this is that only up to recently, QS cost engineers were being introduced to use BIM, right? But I foresee that in the future, not only is BIM second nature for us, we will be able to learn coding. Okay, and I have some examples to show you after this. So very quickly, for people that's outside Singapore, there are the 4 stages. The first one is on digital design, whereby we use computational. I have some examples to show you: object libraries, augmented and virtual reality, quality check, and so on and so forth. So that's all in digital. The second is digital manufacturing and fabrication, all right? But it's called DFMA, or Design for Manufacturing and Assembly. And this is a situation where from the design stage, you can bring your designs through CAM, computer-aided manufacturing, and come out with your product, whether is it structural steel, whether is it PPVC, or is it precast bathroom units. And even up to recently, they are looking at prefab kitchen units. So I believe the Chinese have gotten this to an art, and I've seen them build hotels, factories. We take years, they take weeks, right? And you can actually go to the YouTube and have a look at it. It's not only sturdy design, but it's fast in construction. The third one, and that's where the contractors will be very interested with, is looking at how they can improve productivity on site. So later I'll show you some examples of time-lapse cameras. Even as a QS, I'm very interested in productivity. I'm very interested to find out how fast can we build. Are we designing correctly for the builders? Because one of the first things is that to have a precast building, you can't say that you design it in cast in situ and say, hey, I want it to be precast right now. It doesn't work that way. You must make sure when you design your building in an instance, it's designed for constructability in mind and buildability. Now there's a difference between the two. So digital construction is important, and it looks at using trackers like RFID. So some of my projects, I'm using QR code, and just by simply using simply using a camera, like a handphone, and I'll be able to use the QR code to get my information and even do payment, right? So that's the third part. The fourth part is on digital asset management. And this is where you can do FM, facilities management, take the BEAM model, extract it with information rich but data light, right? So it's not a heavy model, and you'll be able to do facilities management using this BEAM model. I have some examples to show you as well. So during this COVID-19 period, I mean, we all are very familiar. Now we are having these e-meetings, and I've ever conducted a seminar last week. There were about 700 over people involved. So it is about these e-meetings are great, but I must say nothing beats face-to-face where you're meeting that person and can shake hands with the with that fellow person, because human beings, we are there we are built to be social animals and to meet each other and shake hands and so on and so forth, right? But you know what? E-meetings are always there. This is going to be a norm, and I'm so well, I'm happy that we are having these e-meetings now, because every time I want to travel to meet my client, or from just project meetings, I speak probably only 20 minutes out of 2 hours, and I'm spending about half an hour, 45 minutes to travel, and it's literally on the road for almost 2 hours. So now with e-meetings, everything is much faster. Later, I'm going to show you an example of how, if you see the show Ready Player One, how I've worked with a SME, a small medium enterprise, and we have managed to create that. Okay, but that is for later. A lot of training is now online as well, and this is just an example of how we have conducted our BIM training. We have 5D training. That means cost management training. We have training on how do you do design and so on and so forth. So now, instead of face-to-face training, we are actually doing training on the platforms, right? So that's how we are still keeping ourselves upgraded. But I noticed that during the period of COVID now, clients, or rather my internal clients, that means our designers, for example, in Sabana Jurong, they are asking me, say, hey, I can't have many of my modelers now to do certain things. Can you help me to automate certain process? This is an example of how you can do lightning protection, okay? And whereby the traditional way is, you use a 45-degree angle or a rolling sphere, and you need to physically draw the rolling spheres on all the metallic parts and then see how is the building protected. Very troublesome, very cumbersome. This software is something that it's actually Revit, but we wrote a code on top of that transferred all these rolling spheres. Okay, wrote a script in Dynamo, so Dynamo and Revit comes together, and telling the computer, whenever you see anything metal, okay, so if this is metal, draw a sphere on top, okay, and suddenly, the computer will blow up this, and then we ask the computer, can you clean up all the overlaps? And voila, what would have taken days or weeks to do has been done in a matter of minutes or an hour, right? And this is just an example to show how, for example, this building or this car park is going to be protected by the rolling sphere and the lightning arresters very, very quickly. So I'm seeing that now, especially in this period, people are asking for this type of computational, they call it computational BIM, yeah? And I'm also seeing that, in the future, we are quantity surveyors or cost engineers will need to know this. It's a language of C++ or Java, depends on whether is it a Bentley or whether is it a Revit. Meaning that as quantity surveyors, we will be able to get an abstract of the .rat file from the client. Of course, there's IP issues, but I'm sure in a couple of years, all these will be will be ironed out, but we will be able to interrogate the data and get all the information out. So that as quantity surveyors, sometimes designers will not model in the finishes, but we will be able to get this using controlled quantities. So I foresee that in not 10 years, but I see maybe in less than 5 years, we will be evolving to do this. there's also part of the QS and the cost engineer roles whereby they're doing facilities management. And facilities management will mean that I have to go and go to site and check my certain or the certain equipments. So right now I'm showing you, this is sensing. We are using sensing, whereby we have Internet of Things. Okay, sensors that are placed in buildings, machines. So you can see thermal, visual, air quality, oral, and you'll be able to know whether is it, how's the plate, is it good or bad, and you'll be able to sense it remotely. This is something somewhere in my cave. We have a cave in the office, and I'll be able to, when have a look at it. So right now it's on when the guys are not there. It's on power low. There's only 200 lux. So it's one of those things that I see that in the future we'll be looking at FM quantity surveyors and cost engineers will be looking at this. So data monitoring is definitely part of the integration. This is one of my favorite drones. Okay, you know what? I also see that as for QSs, especially those site QSs, contractors, developers, or even consultants, everyone will be a drone pilot. I am taking my test now for drones, and it's quite interesting because Singapore is upgrading their drone license syllabus, and I must say it's quite refreshing to go back to the school again, but to play with the drones. You need to have great dexterity, so that, for example, the left thumb is to control up and down, right is go left and right, and you must be able to use the both thumbs to have enough dexterity to control this drone. And so I'm going to be showing you some pictures of how we have used it. Okay, so this is just an example of the drones that we use. It's a DJI. And instead of walking a site that's 2 football fields, for example, this little fella can cover the information to gather information very fast. We can program him to tell him, I want you to go certain distance at certain speed, and he will be able to travel to take the information. I was with the senior drone specialist in my team, Kenneth, and he turned his hobby into a passion, to what he likes, and right now he's all doing some confidential projects, using drones to supervise projects. And I must say that I believe this is going to be part of the way we work, because we taking the image, drones are just tools, okay, but taking that, putting it into software, for photogrammetry, putting in software to look at spectral analysis, you will be able to gather a lot of things. One of the examples that we are for example looking at is to see how is to see how we can take these drones, fly over the site. We'll be able to tell where the blue spots are, and that are areas where, for example, there will be potential mosquito breeding. We have drones the size of my palm. We call it the Tello drones, and they can fly indoors by themselves, and they fly with their own cage even. So I really feel that I don't want to say that part of the probably syllabus in schools is to teach on this, but it's a hobby. We should know it. It's a good certificate to have, and it's a very useful certificate to have as well. So this is an example of we can take the drones and we fly, and we'll be able to see very quickly count the number of materials, for example, on site. Now we can write an algorithm to ask them to recognize all these. You can physically count them; it's faster than walking and and counting them. But have an aerial view, get the drone to take that video, feed it back to the software, and the software can count using AI. And this is something that I'm experimenting, because I will be able to capture quantities. I know as a QS, back to quantities again, yeah. And you'll be able to do measurement. measurement either by, again, take the image. No, don't forget that the drone is not a smart guy. It is the program behind the drone that is smart. And you will be able to do this type of measurements. Another example of using surveillance is this thing on using a IP cam, or using this for example, for supervision. So I'm not too sure whether it's possible, guys, but this one is, I have a live IP cam now in one of my project sites. You can see everybody has gone home. Okay, it's supposed to be a rush job. We are building some facilities in a month, but you can see that the site it's dark. They've off the lights. They've gone home, but the lobby, there's some work still going on in the lobby. So I have another cam that I can go there and have a look. So I can sit here and have a look at things as what's actually happening. You know, if you're doing project management. So I'm experimenting on one project. I'm a project director for it. It's 17. The first phase is 17 kilometers of park connectors. Please don't ask me to walk 17 kilometers to do my valuation, right? I will be very thin, or I'll be very fit. But the thing is, if by flying drones or having the same type of cameras mounted on a bicycle and you ride, you'll be able to do the same thing. Remember, it's not the drone, it's not the camera, it's the ability to take the software down and analyze it. So this is just an example of how we can take time lapse. This is open data. It's in the newspaper, and you'll be able to see how we can build. And I can count the number of men. We will know productivity. Perhaps the sequencing was not correct. How we can make it better. How can materials? Is this material better, or in terms of having drywall partitions, is it better? So it's good to be able to capture this information. The world by 2030, 2040 is nothing but data and data. Now, moving on to virtual design and construction and virtual reality. Many times, I'm not too sure why, but the quantity surveyor and the cost engineer is missed out. You know, when we do virtual reality, everything is always done by the designers. I think this is not right, and I'm glad that local universities in Singapore, and I think it's also I've seen some in Malaysia, but I'm very sure this is in Australia and other universities, that they are teaching virtual reality to cost managers, quantity surveyors, and cost engineers. This is a software that we've been working with VR Collab. Very young, bright, there's only about 5-6 guys coming out, and being able to convert a BIM file within 11 minutes into a virtual file. What would have taken probably hours to do, you have to do in 3D Studio Max, you have to put the rendering in, and then you have to put it into Unity. These guys have got it to an art to only 11 minutes, right? And virtual design and construction is key, right? And I believe as quantity surveyors, we must know, because if not, how would we know construction methodology? I remembered when I was in Polytechnic, my Polytechnic teacher, lecturer, Mrs. Wong, said, in order to be a good estimator, cost engineer, cost manager, you need to know construction technology. And many times we don't really embrace that, you see. So this is just an example of how we get our guys ready for virtual reality, and using Fusor to see how sequencing actually works. So we know how to do estimates. If not, we'll just dollar per meter square or just give allowance here and there. It doesn't work that way. So we can do VDC, stands for virtual design and construction training online, and also coordination online as well. And as QSs, we'll be able to see this. We'll be able to click this and do measurements as well, all within the virtual reality itself. I foresee that in the future, we will be looking at design, and this is just an example of how we teach on Python and C++ as well, on how we can interrogate the BIM model to be able to get more information, materials inside. As you can see, it's quite a handful, and I believe when universities start to embrace this, this will be a very powerful tool. Now, engineers and architects are already doing this. If as a profession we don't move towards this, I think we are really going to be left behind. So there must be also support. So as even as a company, we subscribe to like Glodon, Cubicos, Autodesk, so that we can always get ourselves updated by the latest that they have. Traditional QS firms may not do that, or cost engineers firms may not do that. But the more forthcoming ones, they will see design first and then bring it back to how cost management works. And because of that, now this is an example of Ready Player One, whereby you have people trying to do coordination, but they're all in, if you see on the right hand side, these are the different guys in different places. Some will have goggles, some no, and they are actually sitting down doing coordination. And these orange things are all avatars, okay? And they're actually sitting down and doing coordination, doing measurements, as you can see. There's some units annotations here, and they are trying to see how they can coordinate uh, uh, putting in the vets. They're saying there's not enough clearance. Look, I need to have more clearance here. Can you move it? And all this is in the virtual environment even before we get into construction. They can do annotation, they can draw, they can talk to each other, and it's really, it's quite unique. This is something which I feel is the future. But why I'm showing this now is we are piloting it out, because not many will want to be designing them in this type of environment. The young ones, yes, I'm working with some Spanish architects in Hong Kong. This is part of life. Every desk will have one goggle, and I foresee that in a couple of years' time, and not even 10 years or 5 years, maybe 2-3 years' time, we will be moving to this. It will be everywhere, right? And again, in our profession, we need to start moving to this. So what we did in order to, as a QS, to be able to anticipate this, this is a flow, okay? It's an experience map. How, as a QS, I would take a 5D model, work with the design for scheduling, because faster means perhaps more cost, and work together with the contractor to come out with the costs. I did a visioning exercise to even say by 2040, it'll be a situation that contractor will be part of as a consultant in the developer team, because we need their understanding of how we can build better, faster, cheaper, right? And not just work in silos where the design consultants think they know best. But again, back to today, this process will actually show, and if you can see, I'm proud to even put in the SISV QS bar, beam attributes requirements, and we can use this to extract quantities even with perfect or imperfect beam models. Perfect beam models, great, we can use a .rvt extension. Imperfect ones, we can use softwares, for example, like Cubicos, to measure on top. So the SISV QS bar is just one step that we have taken to tell the architects, okay, great. I know, guys, you don't have time. You won't be able to draw a lot of things, but please make sure you define your BIM model, your room as a room, for example. Second, please define your floor steps so that we will be able to measure. But in the event they don't do it, we can use softwares like Cubicos to click and do our measurement. So some of the softwares like Cubicos has SMM2, NRM, Construction Electronic Measurement Standards, and SMM7. Supports B models, especially the .rvt. I think they're also looking at ArchiCAD, if not wrong. Deals with variations very quickly. And the most important is, they'll be able to suck in the beam model so that as quantity surveyors, cost engineers, we'll be able to work on them. Okay, and we can generate high-level quantities or even in detailed quantities. Now, the trick is that in order to get detailed quantities, the beam model must be there, must be of good information quality and beam quality as well. But in the event it's not, you must have a middleware that be able to help you to extract the quantities as well. So that's where, what we are using is called Cubicos. So that, these are examples of whereby the beam model has to be done properly. If it's not, then you're going to get very, very odd information. This is an example whereby once you get all the information in properly, you will be able to run simulations and get the costing in quite fast. So this is using C++. As you can see, schedule months, different blocks. You have a typical construction cost here. But once you change, this program is self-responsive by floor plate, for example. When you change it, you can see the months will change and the cost will also change so that we can find the optimized cost and time. I would like to also introduce everyone to this thing called the ISO 19650. This ISO 19650 is, it's a extract version from the public available standards in the UK, the PAS 1192. So far 19650 has only 2 parts, but so altogether they'll be actually having 5 parts. But this is an important part because it is how you have standardization in processes, physical process and digital process. And I feel very strongly as a profession, we must go into this. That's the reason why I've gone in as the vice chair for Building Smart Singapore, and trying to push to say that, you know what, the industry has to go into some standard, IFC, ISO, but my reason is also I want to make sure the QS fraternity will be able to embrace this, because again, if we don't, we'll be left behind. We won't know how to operate a BIM model. We won't know how to operate a common data environment tools, whether it's project wise. I have some examples later. So it's very important that we must be able to understand this, and so in November last year, we made a decision. I told my team, guys, let's go for it. Let's go and get ourselves certified. And I gave ourselves 3 months till January. So October, we made decisions. So November, December, January, we managed to get the certification in. And this is whereby we started to plot. Again, as a QS, I'm driven by details. I'm driven to say what the client is doing, what the contractor is doing, what the the contractor's subcon is actually doing, and so on and so forth. So we started to draw this information. This is only a tip of the iceberg. There's a lot more information to come across. And we started to look at this thing called a experiential map, an experiential journey. What the main con would be looking at, the architect, and so on and so forth. So we started to draw this because, again, I want to say, so I have one for the QS, I have one for the architect, I have one for the engineer, and when all these comes together, we will be able to say, we know how all this comes together, okay? Again, as a QS, I was, my father was the one that brought in the ISO 9001 to Singapore. I was learning from him how he did it. And, it then taught me to say, how can I bring this, but this is digital, then an ISO 9000 for digital into the office. And I think we are the first to be certified in Asia for this as a Singapore company. So I have this under my name card. I have the BSI fundamental for this, Euro standard, British standard, ISO 19650 qualified, and I have to renew this every 2 years. But this is going to be very powerful. We can be able to use this in our submissions and our understanding. And right now I'm submitting this to even, contractors are my clients as well now. And I'm showing them that this is actually needed, because you need to have this process to be able to design properly as a contractor. Then you can do 4D for scheduling, sequencing, safety, and then costing. Last few slides is on common data environment, is whereby we'll be able to look at how, as quantity surveyors, how we must work in this collaborative environment. This is a norm, whether it's project-wise, or I have some examples to show you. So this is also a requirement of BIM level 2, or part of ISO 19650 part 2. And, there are strategies that we need to look at, okay, manuals, capabilities, and so on and so forth. And these are some of the examples that we have to use. BIM 360 is one. For collaboration, that's more from Autodesk. BIM Cloud is from Graphisoft. And I work with Graphisoft with ArchiCAD. Project-wise, Open Building from Bentley. So this is something, see, each of them will have their own benefits, and all these are deemed as common data environment. And I feel that even as in our profession, we must know this, we must know the process. If not, again, we'll be left out. Remember I mentioned about knowledge and scripting? So this is whereby Singapore is looking at this thing called a model checker, which means that you'll be able to check compliance, running distance, gross floor area, so on and so forth. But this also mean that we will know how to take off the quantities, because they want to check the balcony areas, which is 10% of the gross floor area. So, this will be something whereby it's going to be maybe 10 years from now. Singapore will be ready in 2025. But again, I see that in 10, 15 years, it will be in many countries. I understand Russia is also looking into this. So this is an automated checker for code compliances. Last point I want to mention is this is on digital twin. For facilities managers, cost managers, first FM cost managers, sorry, they will be looking at operating a digital twin, whereby the original, you have a mirror of the actual building in virtual reality, and you'll be able to look at this with all these consoles next to around you. And we are doing some for local clients, of course, and also for overseas projects in China, in Indonesia. But the whole idea, and if I can show this to you, is to be able to map. Okay, is to be able to map cities, to be able to map buildings, and you'll be able to see things like weather differences, whether it's going to rain. You will know how the energy efficiency of these buildings, for example. You'll be able to look at traffic cams. These are traffic cameras, and you can get important details out, and and you'll be able to manage that. If you see there's an accident, so you'll be able to ask for help. These are on lift data, so people who are stuck in a lift, for example, passenger stuck, passenger trap. Yeah, this all, by the way, everybody is safe. This is just fake data. So this is an example of how digital twins will work. You'll be able to look at asset management as well, so what monitor aging assets, and you'll be able to cost these type of aging assets, for example, for in terms of asset proving. Yeah, so these are just some examples. You'll be able to look at flooding, do flood analysis, and so the water guys love this, because they can look at how flood water will be dissipating. You see the time here, right? Yeah, especially now with climate change. So we just put in a climate change tender, looking at haze in Singapore, water spouts, small little tornadoes. Very interesting, I must say. Yeah. So this is really going to be the future. So that's all I have to share with you, because it's exactly 40 minutes. So I'd like to wish everyone please stay safe, especially now, and wish you a good evening, and thank you for listening. So I'll now hand it back to the host for Q&A. Aaron?
Hi. 1 second. Hello. Can everyone hear me? Hello. Let me unmute myself. Hello. All right. Good. So apology for the technical difficulties that we are facing. Thank you very much, Mr. Eugene, for giving this talk about digital and technology. I'd like to say that Mr. Eugene is truly a pioneer in the modernization of the QS profession, getting QS profession to be future-proof. These are very interesting implementation of technology, which I see a few of us, some of the countries have already practiced. And I'm very much looking forward to having see some of this implementation to be done in Brunei. So before I move on to our Q&A session, I'd like to take a group photo. So if everyone can switch on their video. Right. Give me a good smile and show me a thumbs up. Give me a thumbs up. Yeah. All right. Give me a few minutes. I'll be taking a group photo. Okay, thumbs up. Okay. That's one. That's two. Yes, not all video I'll switched on, but I'll just tackle anyway. Okay, we're almost done. And last photo. Great. All right. Thank you, everyone. I know you're feeling a bit strain on the right arm or the left arm. Right. So we'll start our Q&A session. So let's see if anyone has any questions here. I have two here. And so, Mr. Eugene, first question I have here is from Jacqueline. And she's asking that coding to BIM seems complicated. Is it necessary for QS to learn, or perhaps more for engineer? And how can a QS apply the coding?
Hi, Jacqueline. Yeah. So you sorry, Aaron, can you repeat the question again? Jacqueline, can you repeat your question? I couldn't understand. Are you asking how can a QS learn the coding, right? Okay. So our spec, for example, for Revit, is the coding to be. So the question is, the coding to BIM seems complicated. Is it necessary to learn? Well, the thing is that if you are familiar with C++ programming and the way the basics of it, uh, it is not that difficult. So I've gone through some basic course, and you'll be able to do copying and pasting. But if when a QS understands this more, he or she will be able to take the model, code, and do like a plug-in and run certain scripts to extract quantities from and CSV that out into an Excel file. So answer is it's not that difficult, because engineers and architects and designers are already doing it. And it is, I believe that this is going to be second nature. And this also a follow on to the second question: do you foresee that 5D beam can be applicable to the whole project life cycle? Answer is definitely yes, because um, right now for cubic costs, we are also experimenting on beam payment, whereby from the beam model, you can update the beam model, and the differences will be that of the work that is done by previous month. But one issue is that we are finding that if the BIM model is not done correctly, it's going to be very difficult. So the answer is yes, it can be done, but we need to have good modeling quality. And that's the reason why I'm actually anticipating and waiting eagerly for 2024 to come, where we'll be on Cornet X. And remember I showed you about the model checker, whereby the BIM model has to be of good quality. Then before, if not, it'll be kicked out by the engine. So by then, we'll be able to extract information quite easily. We are doing a project now with some of my Japanese client, and they are building their model with construction in mind, because the Japanese client is a developer and a contractor themselves. And it takes about 20% more time to develop, but because it's getting used to it. But when we run the entire BIM model in a .rvt in cubic cost, my goodness, the measurement comes out fast and furious, you know. And my QS involved in that project can do her cost plan pretty fast, very fast, and know what has been changed previously, and the update now. So, but then again, it has to be done properly, and it can. So, but the answer is yes, it can be done for the whole life of the project. Can it use, so another question is quantification using Cubicos software tools. Can it be using Revit architecture? Cubicos is okay. So two things. Cubicos is a QS software that we run, and we can, if you have a .rvt function, you can actually absorb ingest the Revit model, and you can do a quantification on it. However, Revit architecture has a tool as well that you can also extract the quantities. The difference is when you extract the quantities in Revit architecture, it's just metadata. That means it's just a cell with all the different tagging codes plus then the quantity. It's then the QS have to go and sort it out again and use pivot tables to go and filter it. But Cubicos does it automatically for you. So that is different. So the answer is yes, you can measure on Revit architecture, but I feel Cubicos is much faster and better. What programming language would be useful to learn to help us digitally? I feel that C++ is the best, because Revit is about 80% used, at least in Asia. Bentley is using Java, but if you ask me from a start, I think C++, Python, that would be a minimum that we can use. Okay. Another question is the 5D BIM model is able effectively to control the wastage, such as concrete and rebar. Okay, so wastage is the BIM model is very accurate. If you say it's X meter cube of concrete, it's X meter cube of concrete, but it doesn't take into account bulking factor and so on and so forth. So you need to have another formula. Well, it can be built in, but you must have a formula to take care of all those things. But wastages is usually up to the contractor how he can control. Okay, but so a contractor can manage his team, all his different gangs on site by knowing what is in a BIM model, straight what is he ordering. And usually wastage, I know some contractors are bringing it even down to 1%, and they're being very, very, very frugal on site. So answer is yes, it can be used. In fact, 5D BIM model can be used with this thing. I'm trying to research it, called reversible design. Go and check this thing called BAMB, Building as Material Banks. This is whereby a quantity surveyor will be very, very, the cost engineer will be very useful in knowing the recyclability of materials in the building itself. This is coming from Europe, and I must say that some buildings are saying they're 40% recyclable, 60% recyclable. Some cars, they're saying it's 100% recyclable, like BMW. So this is something that is coming out. Again, when it comes to quantification, QS role will always be there. What other softwares can be used? There's also CosX, BMeasure, and so on and so forth, right? So those are other softwares that can be used. Another question is, I would like to inquire whether there will be any obstacles and difficulties using this method of measurement, and should there be any training before applying this method? Well, I guess it's the method of using QBCOS or a 5D measurement software. Answer is yes. You need to go training. In fact, if you buy, for example, I'm familiar with QBCOS. I signed an MOU with them, and they're giving excellent pricing to us, and they give free training. Free training, and there's 3 levels: beginners, intermediate, and advanced. And they are very personal. Whenever there's a problem, I pick up the phone. They are in my office within hours or even the next day, and they help us and they really handhold us. But you need to be training, and you need to have a core team of people that knows how to use this. And slowly, you move from one core to another. In fact, right now I'm working with the QS teams to digitize the entire process from preliminaries. So sometimes as cost managers, how do you price prelims? I still remember my dad always scold me, oh son, you just price 12%, 9%, 6% for contractor. How you know whether is it correct? So then he taught me even for preliminaries, it's not a percentage. You need to go and price it. So I actually have about 30 items, main items. I have manpower costs, even petrol, how many cranes, laughing cranes, tower cranes, crawler cranes, how much to allow for site management, vector, security. Go down to that detail, to even work out the cost. And once I work that out, I can say, okay, it's about 9% or it's about 12%. Especially when you do with infrastructure like road and bridges, prelims for contractors can even go up to 30-40%. So it is not a situation whereby you just pluck a percentage. You must build it up, and this is something which I've learned from my dad. Until now, I'm making my team calculate the cost and then applying it. And it's not just by pulling a percentage in the air. How accessible is the software? Well, I think it's for QBCOS. I think Asia they are using it quite accessibly, but I can check for you for those who wants to know more about it. I'm giving you my email address in the chat. Yeah, you can always email me. I can send it to Joel to have a look at it. Joel is from QBCOS, and he'll be able to help you. I hope I've answered most of the queries. Drones. Yeah, I mean, people are saying that QS should get the certification for drones. I fully agree. It's not only fun, but you must have the dexterity, because I have crashed drones. Okay, and it's not very easy. But I find it that the younger you are, the easier. All my 20-year-old, 30-year-old all passed already. I'm a 45-year-old this year, and I still not passed it yet. Okay, my secret is out. So I still have to go for the course. Yeah, I can't fly the drones backwards. My mind doesn't work that way. But seriously, I would like to encourage you guys to also look into the ISO certification, because I feel that the ISO certification, like 19650, it's good because it helps us to understand how digital processes works, and that's actually the future. There are others ISO as well, like the ISO 37100. That's on sustainable and resilient cities. Again, great for QSs to know that, because we will be able to cost and know what goes in for sustainable and smart cities of the future. But again, that's a discussion for another topic. So for digital, I believe so the profession not to be left behind, we need to get ourselves understanding and embraced. Yes, Adebola, I have crashed his drone, but I've managed to fix it. It cost me $50 to fix it back. It was a good thing that it just landed upside down. So I just changed the propellers. How can students in Nigeria have this software and video to learn how? Okay, so Mohammed, if you are interested, you, drop me an email. I will send it to Cubicos and ask them for support. And all their training is all online. All the trainings are all online. Okay, I'm not a, I declare I'm not a reseller of Cubicos, yeah, but it's just that I've used it. I find it so akin to the QS procedures and cost engineers procedures. And you know what? Most contractors in Singapore are using Cubicos. So if they have designed it for contractors, it will work for consultants. So it's great to look at that. So other softwares, like I said, is Cost X, Dimension X. There's other softwares that we can use. I've tried using it. But you know, in terms of my preference, it's all preference. It's all preference. Is of course, you know, you need to go and find your own preference and especially test it out with all the different BIM models. So far, Cubicos is the only one with the .rvt, and I stand to be corrected on that. Another question is, many quantity surveyors have the fear that BIM and adoption of technology will lead to increase of unemployment for fresh graduates. You know, but I think you've just heard me what I just said, that you know it's not, you need someone to do the quantification. Now, if the computer can only do so much, we must actually still come in to do quantification. But always remember, the QS and the cost engineer is not just doing measurement. In fact, measurement is where 80% of our headaches come from, because if you measure wrongly, cost wrongly. We must move up the value chain. We must look into things like sustainability, sustainable economics. We must move up into things like digital. We must move into value management, risk management, facilitation. I'm training a bunch of us QS into becoming certified facilitators from the Institute of Value Managers. We are moving up the value chain so that while the computer can help us on certain things and not take over our role, but we must be up there leading, because if not, people will cost the design. Right now, we must make sure designers design to cost. That is the difference, right? And that's how the profession can always remain not only relevant, but we'll be spearheading the profession, because we'll be moving, you know, we are pushing new things, right? Imagine the QS doing value, coming out with the cost and design, because why? Just now I just showed you something where the computer can come up with a design very quickly, right? And if a QS can look into it, why not? That we can push that envelope. So I do not fear. In fact, I welcome the future, because we will be able to move up that value chain. Daniel has asked, in the current COVID-19 situation and moving post-COVID, do you foresee all various parties going virtual, especially site construction? So the first question is, I think, answer is yes and no. We will still be, there will be definitely a push more for like this type of webcam and discussions, okay? There will be more for virtual VDC, virtual design and construction, and the use of virtual reality, right? But will it completely replace? I don't think so. But having said, 5G is coming to the world. The Chinese is leading already. Huawei and team are looking at, they have a room, okay, this is for excavation. They have a room of 20 engineers set inside, and everybody playing computer game. They're all having remote controls with their visors, and they are controlling trucks, dumper trucks on offsite, and doing excavation and transporting of earth. I saw it, right? And I was really awed. They are doing for firefighting as well. So, well, once 5G comes to Singapore, I'll be able to sit in my office or even my home and fly my drone, because the signal is very, very strong and very fast and able to do it. So it's a nanosecond different, not even a millisecond, nanosecond different, okay? So safe distancing rules, all that will still apply. So I believe this is a great step to jump to looks at robotics and so on and so forth, and digital. That's why, you know, I believe this COVID-19 is a game changer. It's going to be a game changer. The contractor that's going to be investing in all these will, and some of my clients, China and Japan especially, they are looking into all these now. Okay, they are doing it. They're testing it out for the last 2 years, and they're going to be doing it in Singapore. Question is, Daniel's also asking what the type of software and skill sets are good to have, especially for all to do on-site work moving around. Well, I guess it's looking at the software skills of okay, so capturing of information. I guess workers will be having helmets capturing site data. There'll be a lot more data analytics, and to see how things can be more productive on site, and I think also on safe on site. That's a lot of questions. Can the software be used for heavy engineering? Answer is yes. We are actually using it for ONG, oil and gas. Let me see. We're using for oil and gas, bridge, roads, tunnels. So the answer, these are the things, and we're using it for reclamation. Yeah, these are the few things we are doing. We have computational for reclamation. We have Bentley. We're using EcoSim for the reclamation and Revit for the caissons and putting it together in Navisworks, for example. So answer is yes. And we're using drones to measure the reclamation of sand, and it's not done by surveyors. I hope I answered your question, Onya-san. Yeah. Content service must take the lead on the role of IT value chain. I fully agree with you, Adebola. Julie is asking, what software did you use where you can track real-time cost changes when designing and time changes? Okay, so the software is Premiere. It's when we are using this timeliner to be able to track, and use Premiere to compile. However, it has to go into another software that we can compare, and that one has an AI. We're using testing one from the UK, where you can actually test, the differences. The original, you can actually use video, or you can even do LiDAR and scan the place, and you can actually do the test. Have a look at this. Yeah, Premiere is one of them. I can't remember what's the other one. I think Timeliner we are using. Okay. Is it possible to present project costs in 3D or 5D as work progresses? I guess if, for example, BIM models are tagged properly with costing, as you build up and what's actually done on site, and Dynamo can update the BIM model, I guess it can be done. I've not done it yet, but in theory it can be done. But we need to have another software called Dynamo to help. Can I have the presentation slides? Sure, I will redact them and send some to you, because some of them are confidential. But I'll send it to Aaron so that members can actually have it. Please advise where to have 5D standard of measurement. Okay, this one is SISV has done something, led by I'm the vice chair for the BIM committee. The chairman is Silas Lowe, and they have come up with the QS bar. You can download it from the SISV website, and that is one of the QS standard. Glodon has come out with the 5D, a draft of the 5D, but I'm looking at it now. But theirs is a lot more detailed. However, it will mean that modelers will have to model that way, and I don't think the industry may be ready for that. But look at the QS bar, very practical on how we can use the measurement today. Okay. Sir, I've been joined. Idris said join late. Can this software be used by other related professionals? Cubicos, yes, of course, yes. It can be used by architects, but better not lah. If architect learn, then QS how? Okay, right. So okay, I think I've answered as much as I can already, Aaron. The last one. Which software used for QS to do cash flow? You can use either normal Excel, or you can use P6. P6 will have a resource level inside that you can actually do cash flow on that. P6 is Primavera 6. Okay, Aaron,
Yeah.
there's no
All
more
right, great.
questions already.
Yes, the questions keep coming. I'm starting to worry because I can hear your voice a bit so short. I
No,
hope
no,
you
no.
get
I enjoy. I hope everybody and I mean I see friends from Africa, Nigeria, Singapore. You know, all I see familiar faces.
nice,
Great to see
nice.
you guys, and thanks really for coming today. It's really heartening to see so many enthusiastic people on digital.
Yes. Yeah. So once again, thank you for giving us this today's informative talk. We look forward to another one again in the near future. So thank you in advance. We also like to thank our participants for those interesting questions. Um, if I can share a bit about Brunei. So I think this question keeps getting repeated even when it's still in Brunei or anywhere else in other countries, especially while we were doing tax. So um, because Brunei is not like Singapore, where they have already implemented incentives or mandate that from authorities that BIM should be implemented to a certain level. So that actually helps the industry to move along because they are forced to. But for Brunei, we are a bit slow because we can't implement it without any incentives. It is a quite a high cost for us to invest. And for QS, because it is in measurement, like when we used to do estimates before, it might take a week. Right now, we just take maybe 2 or 3 days and it's done, and with a lot of details. But the architect is not in with us, the engineer is not in with us, the M&E is not in with us yet. So our implementation is only halfway. Do you have any advice for us how we can move along on this? Let me unmute you.
Yeah, I think so. My suggestion is you need to first that means we need to know the processes on how they design the beam model, because let's say the beam model, a column can be designed all the way from the pad or column stump all the way to the roofer. You know that QS we cannot measure like that, right? It must be in between the slab. Yeah. So the thing is, uh, but the engineer has to do it that way, because then when the engineer design, all the heaviest loads from the top will be brought to the bottom. Imagine if you break it up in between the slab, he will not have the direct load transfer. Number one, two, when he want to move the column, if you have 20 floors, you have to move it 20 times for one column. So that's where the scripting comes in, whereby the modeler or the whoever the designer will be able to explode the column into between the slabs. Then when he want to do analysis again, he bring it together or move it, and then he'll be able to do his analysis and explode it back, and we can do measurement again. But I think most importantly, if you are starting, I would really advise to understand how the beam modelers will model. Then maybe the QS will be able to help them to say that this is how you should be modeling to have good quality modeling standards and information standards in. After that, then when you know the model quality, you'll be able to then to measure, and then you need to find a software that can help you measure properly and measure from a good model and a bad model. You see, Aaron. So I have found a software that can measure well from a good model, can measure well from a bad model, because we can overlay as a middleware on top of the bad model, and I can click, I can get my quantities quite fast, and a software that can help in the QS processes. So that's the reason why we are using the software that we are using now. It is not a situation whereby you just use a software for measurement only. If not, you're going to be stuck because the model may not be good. So this is the three things that I can advise you, Aaron. Yeah.
All right. Thank you very much. All right. I think we should end the session now. So here I'd like to thank all our participants for joining ICEC Rising Professionals online session number 2 today. And we look forward to having you in the future, line up online sessions. So if you have missed the first online session, which was about the impact of COVID-19 on construction projects, and wants to watch it, kindly email us for the slides and link. I think someone mentioned about getting the slides from Mr. Eugene. Mr. Eugene will be sending me the slides, and we will send the email to everyone. for the links and for today's video and also the presentation slides.
So
So
remember,
finally, yep.
Aaron, remember COVID actually stands for Construction Overcome Virus in Digital, COVID.
Very nice. All right.
Okay,
So finally, in midst of the pandemic we now face, do take all necessary precautions and stay safe, everyone. Have a nice day and goodbye.
bye guys. God
Goodbye.
bless. Stay safe.
Thank you, Mr. Eugene.